6 members of the gang known as Street Thunder were ambushed by the police. On Sunday, the warlords of Street Thunder swore a blood oath to avenge their dead. For the gang called Street Thunder, it is a day of vengeance.
All right, folks, now we come to number 10 on the list. Basically, it's the better Ghost of Mars, pretty much in every single way. It is Assault on Precinct 13. Love this movie. It does everything the Ghost of Mars does, but way better. And I mean that in the sense of the claustrophobic close combat situations are done way better. The creatures, questionably, I kind of like the Ghost of Mars creatures because they're just like the makeup work and stuff's good on them. But the people, because they're not really creatures, they're people, but they're people who are like, they're just like, they have no stop. They will just go until they get, like General Custer's Last Stand kind of thing. And it's crazy. They're like zombies in that way. Like they're just like, oh, they're reaching over barricades and they're just like slamming weapons onto their hands and stuff. Another way it's better than a Ghost of Mars is it's like the good guy and the bad guy get together and join forces to stop another threat. Like Ice Cube would be the bad guy and Natasha Henstridge and all of them would be like the good people, and they combine forces. Even Ice Cube as henchmen in that movie. So yeah, it's similar in that regard, but Assault on Precinct 13 does it way better. It's acted ultimately better with lesser known actors. Maybe not at the time, but you know what I mean. Like they're still lesser known compared to like Ice Cube or Pam Grier or something like that. Yeah, this is just a really good movie. The claustrophobic, panic, anxiety feel to it kind of gives you like reminiscent of The Thing, but like this is like different obviously than The Thing, but it's similar feeling in that regard at least. And the action's intense, and like you're rooting for the main characters, you're rooting for the main two dudes and the girl. You're just rooting for them to succeed, and it's just a romp, I'm telling you. So definitely makes sense to be in my top 10, and I recommend it highly if you haven't seen it before to see it. The remake isn't that bad. I still like the original better, but the remake's not bad. It was a Lawrence Fishburne, I believe it is. So yeah, we will see you over after they're done talking at number 9. Let's see what they have to say first, though.
Number 10, I have Assault on Precinct 13.
Oh my God, we're just syncing up all over the place. Assault on Precinct 13. I wrote down batshit crazy, unreal, bordering on comedy. It
takes a long time to get going. The first half is really slow. Mm-hmm. But once the Assault on Precinct, it's not even Precinct 13, that's just the title of the movie.
Yeah.
It's like Precinct 9 or 11 or something.
No, it's Precinct closed because they're closing it down.
Sure, but it's like I can't remember. It's not Precinct 13.
Okay.
It's something else.
I don't remember that for sure, but yeah.
Yeah.
Proceed to Precinct 9, Division 13, and take over from Captain Gordon.
But Precinct 13 has a good sound to it, so that's why they call the movie that. Because 13's an unlucky number. But once the action starts and all the people trying to infiltrate the closed down police station are just like faceless ghouls, basically. They're supposed to be thugs, but they're basically zombies.
That's the thing that stands out most. You have the weird multicultural gang, which they go out of their way to mention that it's a multicultural gang multiple times. That's important.
Yeah.
I don't think John Carpenter wanted to be seen as a horrible racist.
That's smart on his part.
That is smart on his part. The movie is audacious. Mm-hmm. They murder a little girl, and that's what sparks everything off.
Yeah, which comes across comical.
I wanted vanilla twist.
Because it's like a convoluted series of events that starts the actual assault on Precinct 13.
Yeah, it's like a dad and his daughter are lost, and they end up stopping for ice cream.
Because the gang members are just driving around, and because the gang members are written like inhuman monsters, they're just like looking for random people to shoot. And so you have this father and his daughter. The father's at a payphone, and the daughter wants to buy ice cream from an ice cream truck. Mm-hmm. And then the gang drives by, and they just fucking shoot the daughter.
I wanted vanilla twist.
Which is step one. And so then the father in his grief, and this was really, really bizarre to me too. He doesn't like call the cops. He doesn't call an ambulance to grieve. The father just like picks up a gun
and abandons his dead daughter. He just leaves her on the side of the road.
To start shooting at the gang members, which leads to like a car chase.
Yeah.
And then the father ends up in Precinct 13. Mm-hmm. And so then the gang's beef with the precinct has nothing to do with the fact that they're policemen or a beef they have with the police. They just all want to fucking murder the dad of the girl they just killed.
Yeah.
Because they are inhuman monsters.
They're zombies. It's Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
It's a remake of Night of the Living Dead. The daughter, that little girl, by the way, grew up to be a reality star. She's on one of those like Real Housewives shows.
Really?
Shame on you. About it. I'm not talking to you. And I'm shut your f***ing mouth. I've had enough of you, you beast.
And the little girl that's being babysat in Halloween also grew up to be one of those Real Housewives. So.
Like I can't emphasize how little these gang members value their own lives. Like they keep running in with just like pipes and bats, and they just get shot one by one, and they keep coming.
And there's seemingly an endless amount of them.
They keep coming until the script decides it wants to break for a while, and then they just stop. So the characters can talk amongst themselves.
Yeah.
I don't know why I had this in my head. I kept picturing Kurt Russell and Keith David being in this, and I think it would have.
Oh, sure.
I think it would have improved things just because they're fantastic actors who've been in other Carpenter movies.
Yeah, I mean the two guys that are in this, they're not
terrible,
bad.
but
and I kind of like that dynamic. Like we said, it's Ghosts of Mars. It's the cop and the criminal have to team up, and that works. So they're good in the parts, but yeah, someone with more personality to them. I mean, every movie would be improved with Keith David and Kurt Russell in it, so that almost goes without saying.
That's true. That's absolutely true. That's my number 10.
Oh my God, just a gentle aside. After watching that, we all had it ranked number 10. Me, Rich, and Jay all had Assault on Precinct 13 ranked 10. And I didn't even confer with their rankings at all, obviously, when doing mine. So that's just fucking hilarious to me. Let's get over to number 9, though. gosh.
This is KB Antonio Bay. Stevie Wayne here, and let me be the first to wish Antonio Bay a happy birthday. We're 100 years old today. And keep a watch out for that fog bank heading in from the east.
100 years ago, between midnight and 1, something unknown came out of the fog. Now it has returned.
Alrighty, here we are, numero 9, number 9. And we got it. It's my pleasure to bring you The Fog. Adrienne Barbeau, Jamie Lee Curtis is in this. The guy from Halloween 3. I don't know why his name's escaping me right now. Tom Atkins? Tom Atkins, I think that's his name. I think I just got it. But either way, great movie. The atmosphere is nice. I like the setting on the coast where all the fog rolls in from the water. And it really kind of boils down to spooky pirate ghosts, but I mean, that is just fine when it's done when it's done in a way that's done, and also presented in the way it's presented. And also, there's a lot, a whole, a plot where they're literally trying to get their gold back, but the church in the town is funded by using the gold, and they don't like that, so they pretty much go in a vendetta against the entire town. And the way they're presented is just so ominous, and when you say you're in a fog, you can't see anything anyway until you're too close until it's too late, pretty much. And it's acted really well. There's the guy I was talking about from Halloween 3. But yeah, it's very well acted, just a very solid film. I can't say more about it. The music's great. It's a Deborah Hill and John Carpenter coupling, which is the same thing from Halloween. So that's also very good. Yeah, I mean, I definitely recommend this one. Like after pretty much, I recommend everything from like pretty much all of these movies. But the further we go, the more I recommend it. I'm telling you, it just scared me as a kid. The very end is very creepy and startling to some degree, and like I just love it. Like that scene you just seen there, that scene, like all of these scenes are just done so well, and they have that nice quality John Carpenter feel. I can't say more praises, like I said, but we'll see what Jay and Rich had to say. I know that Rich had it way lower because Rich sucks and Jay is...
My number 15, this might shock you, because it's an earlier one.
Oh.
The Fog.
Wow, that low, huh?
That low? I didn't get anything out of it.
Okay.
The entire time I was watching The Fog, it's basically Jaws crossed with a generic ghost story. Like the ghost ship. It's a ghost ship instead of a shark.
Oh yeah, it's very, what do I have it on my list? Should I say, or should I wait till we get...
I mean, you could say now. How would it?
I have it at number 7.
You have it number 7.
So it's at the bottom of like right below his really good movies. But I think it's just a really, like, it is very simple, but I think it's just a really solid little ghost story. The framing of having the old man telling a bunch of kids a story around a campfire at the beginning, I think perfectly sets up like what that movie is tonally. That's what I like too. You mentioned Jaws, like this kind of sleepy little seaside town
with the kind of a cover up going on, something that's going on. Yeah,
I like all the little characters in it more so than, I mean, Jaws is like a perfect movie, but that's centered on 3 characters. Here we get this whole little town, all these different characters. You got the priests, you got Adrian Barbeau, you have Tom Atkins, and he picks up Jamie Lee Curtis, and for whatever reason in John Carpenter's universe, Tom Atkins is just like the hunkiest dude. He can get all the ladies.
Well, he's kind of, him and Jamie Lee Curtis, they're kind of like the protagonist.
Yeah.
And they don't really have anything to do.
No, I mean, they get some exposition told to them.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I don't know, it's more of an ensemble than a straight on.
That's fair.
So I like that. I like that little setting of all the different characters in the town, and just the visuals. The fog is creepy looking, I think.
Yes, but when I was watching it, my brain kept going to like, what if Steven Spielberg directed this? You'd have all the little town moments, and that would be emphasized. The Fog is a movie I can see being done better.
Well, they did remake it, but they didn't do it better.
Oh no!
That's one of the worst remakes ever.
John Carpenter didn't care. He got a check.
That's what he always says. Is when they remake one of my movies, I hold out my hand and a check falls into it.
That's a fair attitude.
Drive you absolutely mad.
The riots began because the stores could not meet the demands of Sutter Kane's novel, In the Mouth of Madness.
Kane disappeared 2 months ago without a trace.
He's the guy that writes horror books.
You can forget about Stephen King.
You damn dirty book! Sorry, I just had to do that because it's number 8, In the Mouth of Madness, and Charlton Heston is in this movie, and he was in Planet of the Apes, so just saying. But no, number 8, love this movie a lot. Sam Neill's great in it. I love the spooky atmosphere. I love when the dude breaks into the window, he's like, Sutter Kane. Sutter Kane. It's very, very nice. I like when he get into the town, like he's having like, it's almost like Lost Highway, David Lynchy and stuff. It just keeps like repeating, and like weird guy on like a bicycle that he thinks a kid, but it's actually like a really aged person. Very creepy. It's like once you enter the town, you never get out of the town. And come to find out, not to spoil it, but like pretty much the author that Sam Neill is sent to go find is writing books, and these books are actually what's happening in Sam Neill's life. So it's like some meta shit. There's actually a time where the author rips his face and part, and it's like a book. He's like a torn page from a book. And yeah, it's like super like meta, like it's like acknowledging like the audience in some ways in that regard, and it's literally there. It just showed it. It's crazy. I recommend this movie so goddamn much. There's so many things in it. They're like subtle and not. It's one of the better John Carpenter movies. Definitely one of the best 90s John Carpenter movies. And yeah, and it's also like a big shot at like Stephen King and stuff too. They even say like Stephen King ain't got nothing on this, and it's very funny all the way around because Stephen King didn't like the way that Carpenter directed some of his works, even though Carpenter did a great job with them. So I don't know. I'm Team Carpenter all the way on that one. But either way, we're gonna move on to number 7. But we'll move on right after the boys from Red Letter Media see where they have it located on their list and such, and we'll see you over there.
Well, what's your number 11?
My number 11 is, this is kind of smack dab in the middle, In the Mouth of Madness.
We synced up again.
Is that your number 11?
That's my number 11.
Okay.
Johnny boy.
I was hoping you would have more to say about it because I don't have much to say about it.
Well, Colin and I did a whole review on it, so
that's very fortunate.
We said plenty about it.
Because you can just click on that right now.
Yeah, and leave a comment and like and subscribe.
What I have to say about it is I appreciated some of the meta elements of it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, the allusions to Stephen King and horror, and is horror bad for people's psyche?
I know this book will drive people crazy.
Well, let's hope so. The movie comes out next month.
And also, like Prince of Darkness, it has that kind of like impending apocalypse coming, this feeling of doom. I like Sam Neill in it a lot. He's basically John Carpenter. He's just this complete cynic
who hates Stephen King. I mean, Cepheus Cain?
Sutter Kane.
Sutter Kane.
Yeah.
Was this... Is the In the Mouth of Madness, is that just some kind of reaction to Christine? Because I don't think Stephen King was very fond of Christine.
I don't know. I don't know what he thought of Christine, Stephen King did. I know Stephen King famously hated the Kubrick adaptation of The Shining.
I think he probably shit on Christine too, or at the very least, I can easily see him having shit on Christine too. Huh. And I can imagine that In the Mouth of Madness was just John Carpenter saying, fuck you to Stephen King.
Sutter Kane. Isn't he the guy that writes that horror crap?
I can see that.
Maybe. I mean, that might have been part of the appeal for him taking the job. This was kind of a director for hire gig. He didn't write it.
Yeah.
He didn't come up with the story or anything. It was kind of that period, like the 90s, when we talk about the mediocre 90s John Carpenter movies. That was, if you look at the first half of his career, it's pretty varied, which we haven't gotten to any of those because those are the good ones. Except for Halloween, which you hate. But
which I think is okay. It's in the middle of my list, not the bottom half.
Yeah. But the 90s is where it's all like, oh, the only thing that he could get were horror movies. You're the horror guy. We're not going to let you make anything but horror. And so this is one of those. Like, hire John Carpenter. He's the horror guy. And so that's all he can kind of get made.
It's because whenever he didn't make a horror movie, they bombed horribly.
Yeah, regardless of the quality.
Something else interesting I found out about John Carpenter. All of his movies, like Halloween, like 45 million or close to 50. Mm-hmm. That made a ton of money. That made 50 million, 40 million, whatever it was.
Especially for the budget, because it was super low budget.
Every other movie he made was like half that.
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to box office returns, like the top part of my list is just a series of tragedies.
Did I ever tell you my favorite color was blue?
So anyway, enjoy the review of In the Mouth of Madness. Click here.
I've said everything I have to say about it.
I have to. I don't have
aside. Too bad we couldn't sync up again, but they were both at 11, and I just like this movie, I guess, just slightly more as far as like the John Carpenter films. It is very good. It's got the I forgot to kind of mention, it's got kind of like that Geiger-ish feel in some parts, and it's got kind of like the the cosmic horrors feel. So it's interesting, but we'll see you back over at number
They have
7.
recruited the rich and the powerful.
They're running the whole show.
Wake up! They're all about you, all around you. Blinded us to the truth.
Take a look.
They are safe as long as they are not discovered.
All right, numero siete, number 7, we have They Live. Roddy Piper kicks ass in this movie. I mean, to be exact, he came to do 2 things. Now, it was chew bubblegum and kick ass, and he's all out of bubblegum, so... And then he blows away a bunch of alien scum by putting on some glasses to be able to unveil them. There's a bunch of political, not really political, it's like pseudo-political, more like class system social commentary. It's like, the rich versus the poor, and the poor, and the elites always make the poor obey and do and consume and, to appease, and John Carpenter's always been that minded, so it's not surprising to me. But a great movie. It's definitely deserved a spot for sure. Yeah, I mean, I like the fight scene, the really long fight scene that's been made fun of in multiple different forms of media, like from Family Guy, even South Park references, I'm pretty sure. Simpsons probably does. Everything probably fucking does. And it shows Roddy Piper is actually not too bad of an actor, honestly. He's good in Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So, I mean, it's not his only acting credit. And, it has a great John Carpenter feel, and it's a good soundtrack. The ending's probably the worst part of it, but I still like the whole, flipping them off. It's good, dude. I really do like it a lot, actually, to be honest with you. So, it's probably why it's number 7, because it's up in that higher category. I definitely recommend to see it if you haven't. And, we'll move on and see what they have to say about it. And, we'll be on number 6, which I'm actually really excited to talk about, and we'll be there.
All right, number 5, what do you got?
My number 5 might be number 1 in my heart, but I couldn't make it higher. I have They Live.
They Live!
Oh, okay.
Hey, what's wrong, baby?
I think I have similar feelings to you then. I feel bad I didn't put this movie higher.
It does have flaws, and I almost don't care about the flaws.
What it does have is my single favorite scene that John Carpenter has ever directed.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about when he first puts on the glasses and is discovering the world around him.
That scene where he first puts on the glasses and it reveals the truth is glorious.
It's the pacing of it is perfect. His realizing what's happening, it takes him a little while, as it would, because it's so bizarre and insane.
It really boils down to our ability to accept. There are no limits.
It figures it would be something like this.
Yeah, the amount of time it takes him. And Roddy Piper is great in the part. He was not a great actor, but for this role, as this kind of naive guy, working class guy, he's perfect. Yeah, that whole, I don't know what it is, 10, 15 minutes.
Homeless working class guy, because they really, this movie really hammers home the difference between the haves and the have-nots. That's very strongly running throughout this movie.
It's one of those movies that people say now, I always hate when people do this, but they always say this movie's more relevant now than when it was made. And people always say that about random movies that have some sort of social or political commentary or satire or whatever. And it's not true. It's not that it's more relevant now. It's equally relevant because nothing changes. There has always been people in power taking advantage of people without power. And that's what this movie's about, in a way that is not heavy-handed or so specific that makes it dated. It's clearly, this was the height of Reagan. They're clearly talking about what was going on in the country at the time, but it's not so pointed and specific that you can't relate to it now.
That's true, but the movie probably would have made a lot more money if it came out during Occupy Wall Street. When that was a thing.
Because it's more relevant now than
when it was made. More relevant now than ever before.
Yeah. No, it's same shit. It's always, and that's what's great too, is the look of the aliens. It's a relatively low budget movie, so the aliens are kind of corny looking. I mean, they're just skulls with but the fact that I never really thought about this before, that the color of them is red, white, and blue, they're American flag colors.
Oh shit!
I never thought about that.
Oh shit, that's great.
Until recently, but just the look of them. I've seen that reappropriated in so many different pieces of art. People use the look of that alien, and you know right away what it means.
You do it to your own kind. What's the threat? We all sell out every day. Might as well be on the winning team.
And again, it's not preachy or heavy-handed. It also has a 15-minute fight scene in an alley that everybody loves, that just goes on and on forever.
You dirty motherfucker!
Which I believe was all Roddy Piper's doing. It's they just showed up and okay, pro wrestler, what do we do? It's like, well, you do this.
Yeah, even after seeing it, however many, I've probably seen this more than any movie ever, because I used to see it on cable all the time as a kid. It was on all the time. And then, I don't know, it's like a comfort movie where I probably watch this at least once a year still. But every time that fight scene goes on so long, there's a part when they break, and one of them is like leaning against a car and catching his breath, and then it just starts all over again. It goes on for several more minutes.
I love the moment, though, where Roddy Piper just starts swinging like a board at him, and he realizes he's about to murder him, and he realizes he has gone too far.
Yeah.
Oh, shit, he just kind of stops. That's a fantastic moment in that fight.
Yeah. But the fact that they just, stop the story dead in its tracks to have this fight go on for so long.
I mean, you got a pro wrestler there. Use that shit to your advantage.
Sure. But I will say, after that fight, that is where, after that whole sequence, starting with him putting on the glasses for the first time, and then just going on a shooting rampage, all that's great. And then the fight with Keith David is great. And then the rest of the movie never quite lives up to the greatness of that first half.
The movie doesn't know what to do from there is the problem.
Yeah. I like the rest of it. It's fine, but it's not as strong as that first half.
It's sloppy. It's like they go to the meeting and they find the watch that accidentally takes them exactly where they need to go.
Yeah.
And then someone's there to conveniently deliver them exposition. Who is George Buck Flowers, who
really branching out and playing a bum.
I do love that he was homeless in the beginning, and then he's he's the sellout. That's his role in the movie, and he's wearing a tux now, and he's
the second half has fun stuff in it, but it's story wise, structure wise, it kind of runs out of steam and doesn't know what to do.
And that's why I don't have this movie higher.
Mm-hmm. But it's still I love the score to it. It's one of the more repetitive scores of his, but it has that Western.
It's got that Western theme. It's got that, I don't know what kind of guitar that is, what you call that.
I don't either.
But it sounds fucking great.
Sort of bluesy, sort of a Western sound, and it's very repetitive, even for John Carpenter, where it just kind of keeps doing that same thing over and over, but it works.
It can be
because the movie is about being hypnotized, and it lulls you in, where it's just I think that's why I just keep watching. It's just so rewatchable because of the pacing of it and that music.
The first half for me is very rewatchable. I think that's the problem. I don't. The end is yeah.
Well, the idea that the solution is just there's one satellite on the top of this tower, and that's what defeats the aliens.
And what's her name?
Meg Foster.
Meg Foster, she's a major character now. She's a hostage he took earlier in the movie, and now he really cares about her now. Why?
Yeah.
It's sloppy. The second half is sloppy.
She just so happens to work at the TV station where the satellite is. But that final shot is great though, where it's just him flicking them off, and that ending is great too, when the aliens are finally revealed. We have a fake Siskel and Ebert talking about violence on television and movies.
All the sex and violence on the screen has gone too far for me. Filmmakers like George Romero and John Carpenter have to show some restraint.
They're aliens. It's so thinly veiled, the people in society this man does not like.
Oh, sure. But at the same time, as a kid, I didn't understand anything about politics. I just thought it was a cool, subliminal message movie about alien invasion. So it works on a broader sense as just a story, even if you don't connect any sort of, political satire to it.
They put you at the starting line. And the name of the game is make it through life. Only everyone's out for themselves and looking to do you in at the same time. You do what you can. But remember, I'm going to do my best to blow your ass away.
But we do have to mention Keith David. He's great in this.
He's kind of great in everything, though, isn't he? I mean,
that's true. But I love, even before we get to any of the alien invasion stuff, some of the scenes with him talking with Roddy Piper in the kind of homeless compound or whatever it is.
It just gets bulldozed for no great reason.
Because fuck them. Because they're poor.
Fuck the poor people.
Yeah. But all of his stuff there, I love how naive Roddy Piper is at the beginning of this, and Keith David is just completely over it. He's so cynical.
We gave the steel companies a break when they needed it. Know what they gave themselves? Raises. They close one more factory, we should take a sledge to one of their fancy fucking foreign cars.
You know, you ought to have a little more patience with life.
Yeah, well, I'm all out.
Roddy Piper's like, I still believe in America. I just need my opportunity. And Keith David's just like rolling his eyes.
You idiot. You don't know nothing.
Yeah. And his eyes are open by the end of the movie.
The aliens are in charge. They've always been in charge. He has no chance unless he shoots a satellite. That makes everything.
He's still dead at the end of the movie, though. But he doesn't care. He gets to flick him off one last time.
He's dead at the end of the movie because they don't know what the fuck to do at the end of the movie. What do you do with this character? Ah, he's dead. I don't know.
That's because as a character, he's not. I mean, he isn't even given a name. He's credited in the end credits as nada, which means nothing. He's never given a name in the movie because he's just sort of a symbol of this lower class.
You're right, and I have never noticed that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I literally just learned that. That explains why I always just call him Rowdy Piper.
There you go.
Watch that movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
So They Live, I don't know. It's the most rewatchable. Like I said, it's number one in my heart. So.
Solid number 5.
Sure.
I don't like this one bit. Not one bit.
As a quick aside here, I jotted down a few things. Theirs were mine was lower than theirs. I almost matched up with them again, but we did not. I could not put it higher, even though I do love this movie a lot. Keith David is very awesome in this, which I didn't mention. I mentioned Roddy Piper, but I didn't mention how good he was in it because they just like two peas in a pod. And it's interesting that Roddy Piper's character doesn't have a name. That's why everyone calls him Roddy Piper, but apparently his name in the credits was Nada. So I thought that was very interesting. And the social commentary is obviously interesting, and that's kind of John Carpenter's way with it. But I agree with a lot of things I had to say there. So let's get on with number 6. All right, we have, as Jay would say, probably number 1 in my heart, but I can't really justify it going higher on the list. But I love this movie. Number 6, 1987's Prince of Darkness. I don't even know where to begin. This is one of the ones I had to write down notes because there's just so many things I didn't want to fucking miss anything. First of all, Alice Cooper's in the movie randomly, and it's a pretty good role. It's pretty unique, and he actually kills somebody in the movie with a stage prop that he uses at his music events, which is actually kind of neat. So, I mean, I'm not sure if he uses it all the time at his events, but it's something that's used there, and it sounds like, oh, that wouldn't fit in a movie, but it does. It doesn't look out of place at all, really, but it's got one of the top 5 fucking John Carpenter soundtracks of all time. Like, it's definitely up there. I downloaded it multiple times, and I had it on my iPod way back in the day. Like, it's such a damn good soundtrack. The effects are amazing. The practical effects are great. The gore effects are great. There's just a lot of neat visual stuff in it. Like, the moody atmosphere is amazing. It's like just the atmosphere at the church itself, and like the forebodingness of it with all the creepy messages of from the future trying to warn people to try to stop the events from occurring. It's just so good. It's basically like to prevent the apocalypse in some ways, and it's got science meets religion and some fucking freak of nature shit. It's so great. It seems like a lot of the actors from Big Trouble in Little China are in this. Like Egg Shen's in it, and Kurt Russell's second he's technically the primary character, but he's like the one that's not on the posters or anything, but he's definitely the main one doing all the ass kicking, where Kurt Russell's kind of knocking himself out. Either way, that's a different movie. But there's a lot of those actors in this film though, which I found interesting. You know what I mean? I don't even know where to begin with this movie. It's such a great movie. I saw it at a perfect time in life too, and it's so good. I definitely recommend this one to everybody. Like I said, I wish I could put it up higher, but it's so hard to justify that, but it's such a goddamn good movie. Donald Pleasance obviously kills it. It's just, like I said, all the combination of this great soundtrack, the effects, the great acting, the Alice Cooper, just kind of a little cherry on top, if you will. But it's so good. It's a lot lower on the lists of both of their lists. Jay, it's closer, it's higher up than on Rich's, of course, because me and Jay match up more than not. But it's not. Neither of them give it as much love as I do. I find it criminally underrated. So please do yourself a favor and check this movie out, and we'll see what they got to say about it. And we'll be in the top 5 after this. But pretty much anything from about 7 on are probably all movies that definitely 6 on would be in my top, probably top 50 to 100 movies, depending on where the list would be, of all time. And that's how good they are. So I'm just saying, we're there, boys. We're there from this point onward. You know what I mean? So we'll see you over at number 5.
My number 14, and you might hate me. Prince of Darkness.
No, I don't hate you.
Okay.
It's a very flawed movie. It's quite a bit higher on my list, but I can understand why people wouldn't like that movie. It's very talky, and even with all the talking and exposition, I don't know if it still makes any sense. I like that movie a lot because of the atmosphere of it.
I've got a message for you, and you're not going to like it.
I love the music. I love that sort of like feeling of impending doom. I think they build that all up really well. But it's another one that is basically a zombie movie.
Just bite the bullet and make a fucking zombie movie, John Carpenter. It's not too late. I know you look like you're about to die, but you've looked like you're about to die since you were 40.
Yeah.
Just make a zombie movie. I want to see it.
Well, I mean, you've seen several that are basically zombie movies, so. No, this movie he said he was influenced by the Italian movies of the era, which would also explain why it's low on your list. And there is, I think you mentioned like an Argento movie, but to me it's more like the best Lucio Fulci movie, and that it's all kind of nonsense, but it's got atmosphere, and I like the ghouls in it. So it's a very flawed movie that I think the strengths of it elevated a bit for me.
It's kind of what I have wrote down. I don't have much written down about it. I wrote down, feels like it takes forever to get going.
Well, just the opening credits take forever. It's like 15 minutes into the movie and they're still cutting back to those credits.
You know, while we're talking about John Carpenter and credits, can we just talk about the John Carpenter font?
Albertus.
I had to look it up because he uses it for almost everything.
And then when he doesn't, you miss it.
Yeah.
I was watching Memoirs of an Invisible Man, and I was like, what is this?
What I will give John credit for is he was smart enough to give himself branding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like John Carpenter in that font is it's just in my fucking brain. His name, John Carpenter 'S. Yeah. John Carpenter's The Thing.
And even in his weaker movies, it has that kind of authorial stamp on it. Like you look at his movies and you're like, oh, that's a John Carpenter movie, just visually. Just the way he framed, like I said, that's why Ghosts of Mars is so bad, because it doesn't look like one of his movies as far as like the cinematography and the framing of the shots and the music. I think he wrote the score for Ghosts of Mars, but he had it performed by the band Anthrax. And that's a pet peeve of mine, is when scores try to be rock music, it always just comes across so lame.
That's going back to Ghost of Mars. That's something that just stood out like a sore thumb too. The score.
Yeah.
It's so different from everything else he had ever done.
Well, that's because he had a rock band performing it.
Prince of Darkness. I gotta go back. I gotta talk about Prince of Darkness. I don't have much to say about it. I like the visual at the ending when she was like, they filmed it kind of like underwater when she gets sucked into the demon dimension.
Oh yeah, I like that they don't go overboard with that stuff. You just catch like glimpses of it, and those like what do they call them? Like those transmissions. where it's shot. It's like early found footage almost, like that VHS look.
There is kind of an interesting mix between like science and mysticism in that movie.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
That's just that visual of this. Under this church, there's this giant tank with green goo. That's technically the devil. Like, it's very odd. It's an interesting concept.
Like an implication that Jesus was some kind of alien.
Yeah.
Like Jesus understood quantum mechanics, and this is all sitting under that church, waiting for humanity to invent quantum mechanics. That's bizarre. That's at least interesting.
Like some of his other movies, it has an interesting concept that it doesn't necessarily live up to.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about with some other movies on the list, I'm sure.
I told you they didn't like it as much as me. Jay defends it, but not as well. Damn it, I'm telling you, it's a great fucking movie. I mean, they do defend. Jay does say all the things that I say pretty much, except I did forget to mention like the VHS quality, like the VHS-ness quality of those transmissions and shit are very. It adds to the uneasiness that you feel, the unnervingness to it. So. Yeah, I really do like it. The visuals are great, like they said, and it's definitely a unique premise, that's for sure, and one that I fucking love. So I'll see you over, though, in the top 5. Again, I keep saying it, but this time, it's real.
Halloween night. A small American town. 15 years ago.
All right, here we have number 5. We're in the top 5. I got my Halloween shirt on. It's purple. Don't know if you can tell it that well, because it's number 5 is Halloween, and I wish I could put it up higher. And a lot of people's list it probably is, even though Jay has it high, but Rich Evans has it way low, which is a complete travesty. It is literally one of the most groundbreaking horror films of all time. It literally opens the door for so many other horror villains and horror premises down the line. And Jamie Lee Curtis is great in it. Donald Pleasance is great in it. I mean, I can't say things that many other channels probably haven't said before, but it is a fantastic film. I assume most people have seen it by now. And if you haven't, definitely see it. Halloween Kills just came out, so you can see the original and then go and see the two remakes that come in between 1 and 2, which I don't even know how that's possible, but it's a damn good movie. The atmosphere is perfect. Small town setting in Illinois, which is funny because I'm from a small town in Illinois. The Shape, or Michael Myers, whichever you want to call him, he is Michael Myers, but he's also the Shape. He is the embodiment of evil, the actual embodiment of evil. He cannot be stopped. He will not be stopped. He is the evil, and Donald Pleasance knows it. Dr. Loomis knows it. And man, I just love this movie. I'm gonna have to rewatch it again, and I just watched it like 2 months ago. I love this movie. Then again, the top 5, like I said, the top 7 probably are in my top 50 to 100 movies of all time. So it's like pulling or splitting hairs, if you will, there, but so good. I just not much, the atmosphere is what really sets it off. The music is great. The score is wonderful. Deborah Hill and John Carpenter they just do good work always. And yeah, I mean, it's Halloween, so it's damn good. And no imitators, and all the ones after can never harness the energy of the first one. So let's see what they have to say about it. I'm sure Jay's is probably pretty close, if not a little higher. Rich is a stupid son of a gun sometimes, but we'll see you over at number 4 after they get their words in edgewise.
Oh boy. You are going to hate me.
Is that much higher?
You are going to hate me. They are all going to hate me. Everyone's going to hate me because I have this under The Ward. I have this under Vampires. I have this under all of these other movies.
Oh no, what are we doing?
My number 12? All the way down to number 12. Halloween.
Oh my God, one of the most classic movies ever made.
Classic movies ever made. I just don't get the appeal. I'm not a horror guy. So like the whole slasher genre has never been my thing.
Sure. This is like a proto-slasher, though.
It's a proto-slasher.
This isn't a Friday the 13th movie. This is a slick movie. This is made with a lot of skill and talent. And now no one will hear me say that because everybody clicked off the video right after you said Halloween.
No, they're still on the video because they are now furiously typing in the comments.
Oh, I guess that's good for us then, right?
How wrong my opinion is. And you know what? I don't blame you.
Yeah.
This is probably just a me thing.
It is an opinion. That's fine.
It's an opinion.
It's not like you're saying it's a poorly made movie.
I'm not saying it's a poorly made movie. I'm just saying it doesn't appeal to me.
That's fair.
He's a creepy man, and he skulks around in the background, and then he kills a few teenagers.
But he has no motive, and that's what makes him creepy.
Yeah, that makes him creepy.
He's an unrelenting force with no motive and no reasoning with.
I have to compare it to the Friday the 13th films. And what the Friday the 13th films have is gore.
Hey, Ted, where the hell's Corkscrew?
They have some great makeup effects. Jason Voorhees, he's just pure. Jason Voorhees is just pure fucking anger.
Oh yeah,
and that's fun. That's like Jason Voorhees is the heavy metal Hulk. And
see, I don't compare them. I mean, you can compare the sequels because obviously Halloween turned into one of the lamest franchises of all time. Most of those sequels are bad. And when you look at it as a whole, as a franchise, Michael Myers sucks. But in that first movie, if you look at it as a singular thing, it was incredibly well crafted and just a simple story that should have just been one movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And if you look at it like that, you know, that's the strength of that movie. It's just how kind of unique and well made it was for the time. But yeah, once you get into like the sequels, the 80s, like yeah, the Friday the 13th movies are way more fun as a whole than any of those Halloween sequels, except for Halloween 3, of course.
See, I know we did a commentary track on this a few years back, but I was watching it with you and I wasn't really paying attention to it, so I haven't really sat down and watched Halloween maybe 20 years.
Okay.
And I was watching this, I was expecting more of like the kind of gore effects and whatnot, and
it's
never
more about,
happens.
It's more about atmosphere and building tension.
And that's there.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't appeal to me. It's not fun. And I constantly scream at Jamie Lee Curtis.
At one point, she just throws the knife on the ground.
By the end of the movie, I was just yelling at the screen, "Stop throwing away the fucking knife!"
Yeah. She's one of the most famous horror heroines of all time, Rich.
And she's the dumbest horror heroine of all time until you get to H2O.
Oh yeah, that's what's interesting is like Jamie Lee Curtis, you know, she did Halloween, she did The Fog, and she did a few like early horror movies, and then she kind of was like, okay, I'm done. She went off and she did Trading Places, and that's kind of, she became a bigger actress. And that was like, oh, she did these horror movies, Halloween movies early in her career. I think if you look at the Halloween franchise now, she's in more of them than she's not in. Because she came back for H2O, she came back for Resurrection. She's in Halloween, the 2018, the new one that's coming out, and then the one that's after that. She's in all of those. So it's after all this time of like running away from her early horror movies, and now that's like her whole career.
Yeah, she's in a spot in her life where she can just have fun and do whatever the fuck she wants.
That's true.
She doesn't have to worry about being seen as a serious actress. She's already done that.
That's true, yeah. Beats yogurt commercials. I should point out, we haven't mentioned this jack-o'-lantern here is an exact replica of the jack-o'-lantern from the opening of Halloween, from the opening credits.
Is that for real?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I see it.
The sculpt, the fact that there's a little cut between the nose and the mouth.
Oh my God, that's so appropriate.
Yeah. I wanted to, make strong reference to this movie that you hate.
I don't hate the movie.
It's very straight. It's a movie that suffers from everything that came after it, too. It feels so tame in comparison, like you mentioned, Friday the 13th, and then like the Nightmare on Elm Street movies are so imaginative and weird, and Freddy has so much personality. That like if you've seen a lot of those movies and then you've never seen Halloween and you go back and watch it, you're like, that's it? I think that's how it was the first time I saw it, but I was like a teenager then.
Yeah.
Now that I'm older, I appreciate like the filmmaking, the fact, what they did on such a low budget.
And for the record, I could appreciate those things.
Yeah.
I am not saying it's poorly. I am absolutely not saying it's poorly made. It's just, I watched it and my thought was, that's it? Also, since I've shit on it, I will say, I absolutely love the ending.
Oh yeah, the ending's perfect.
The ending when we cut back and he's just not there, and then he just keeps cutting to just darkly lit locations.
Yeah, he could be anywhere.
And he could be anywhere, and it's in your mind. Oh God,
yeah.
Where is Michael Myers?
It's the perfect ending for a movie that never had any sequels.
See, I told you Rich Evans is crazy. He put The Ward and vampires above Halloween, and way above it at that. Like, not a... but, yeah.
Her name's Christine.
All right, here we are. Number 4, getting real into the thick of it, thick of it. We got 1983's Christine. And may I just say for the record, I like Stephen King, but fuck Stephen King. This movie turned out amazing. I don't know how in the hell he could be like, oh, that was not my vision for it. Well, that's how you get maximum overdrive, Stephen King. You could have full control over it. And look what you do. You put AC/DC's most soundtrack and you make it a comedy almost, like a slapstick comedy. Like, I don't know, Stephen King's a good author, but maybe not a director. Let a good director like John Carpenter do his thing, because Jesus Christ. All I know is the characters in it are amazing. The acting is amazing in this. And most of the time, like towards like, especially the later end, you can't even tell if Arnie is the one who is controlling Christine or Christine itself is controlling Arnie. Sometimes it seems like the car's driving by itself, but then other times like Arnie's in the car. It's almost like a psychological thing in that regard. But we do know for a fact that the car is able to repair itself like supernaturally, which those sequences are done amazing. It's such a fantastic movie. I can't praise it enough. The soundtrack is fantastic. One of the top 5 soundtracks. Once again, it's fucking great. It had a $9.7 million budget, which for back in the day was, pretty, it's not amazing, but it's not low budget. And he was able to make every bit of it stretch because he got some pretty good actors in it as well. And those cost a lot of money out of a budget. But yeah, it's a great movie. The Christine itself is a 19-something Plymouth Fury. I know it's a Plymouth Fury. I can't remember the year of it. Beautiful car. And of course, it's the opening sequence is amazing, especially when it shows you. It's like if you take Christine. It's almost like it's literally like a woman. And it's like when they're working on it, they pop the hood to see what's under the hood. So, and it's like it's like basically they're treating a woman wrong. So then the car gets back at them and hurt them. It's fucking brilliant. It's mind blowing. It's amazing. And I can't say the praises more. Like I said, it's a great film. It was hard. It and 3 flopped. They switched places twice in my rankings, but they're so drastically different films. It's really hard to really put one above the other. They both impacted me severely in life. I still remember this movie. It's still great. It's better than Halloween in my opinion. So that's saying a lot. And I don't mean better in every aspect, but as a whole, I think I could put it here and feel good about that. So yeah, it's amazing. But let's see what they have to say about it, and then we'll move on to the top 3. And if you've been keeping track, you can at least know what those are, but what order will they be in? You never know.
3, so we already talked about that.
My number 3 is Christine. I love Christine. I love the fucking car as a character.
Using songs on the radio.
Songs on the radio to communicate. It has a personality. Mm-hmm. It's not a mindless murder machine, but it's a horror movie that's also a story about obsession
Yeah, I love the slow kind of corruption of, what's the main kid's name?
Arnie?
Arnie, yeah.
Yeah.
His slow corruption and becoming more and more of an asshole.
He starts off as a nerd, and then his like weird codependent relationship with this sentient, vaguely evil car slowly turns him into a greaser asshole.
Which is when you say it, it's a weird premise, but the way it's executed completely works. It doesn't feel silly, and a movie like this easily could.
Yeah. Horror movies, here's something I'll say about horror movies. It's fun, they're fun for me when you actually want to see the victims die.
Sure.
Because I think for the most part, our sympathy is with Arnie. Mm-hmm. Even though he's kind of becoming evil, like his life kind of sucks. His parents are just kind of ruining his life by being control freaks. The fucking bully, he's bullied so severe, his bullies are fucking pulling knives on him.
Yeah.
For a while, this fucked up car is turning his life around in a very positive way.
Well, that's how emotional manipulation works. You get someone on your side, and then that's when you start to corrupt them and start to take advantage of them or abuse them or whatever.
Her name's Christine.
The car is very much a woman. That first scene in the movie, I'm going to talk about the first scene in the movie because I love it. Starts off, first off, Bad to the Bone. That song, you can say it's silly. I instantly understand the premise with the car, though. You don't need any kind of like the car's possessed by the ghost of, or the ritual.
We don't get any of that in this movie.
The ritual by Satanists caused the car. No, it's just the car's in the assembly line. It looks different. It's red, and you hear that song, and you fucking get okay. Yeah, the car's just fucking alive.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing I love about this movie. It doesn't feel like it has to explain away why the car's alive. It just we're going there.
Yeah.
You have the car going down the assembly line, and the inspector, he's inspecting the cars, and he's checking out the car's rear end. No, because Christine is a woman, right?
Sure.
So it's like a woman catching some guy creeping out on her, like out of the corner of her eye.
Yeah.
Then later on, he comes out and he opens up her hood. He's checking out under the hood. He's reaching up under her skirt. Mm-hmm. So what does she do? She slaps his hand away. I was watching
You're absolutely
it,
right.
and I just kind of noticed this.
Yeah.
So then a different guy gets in the car, and the song she plays, it's like, hey, would you be, I forget exactly what the song is, but the implication is, hey, would you be my driver? Will you be mine? Mm-hmm. It's like, and then he just kind of completely disrespects her by dumping his ashes out, and that's when he dies.
Yeah.
I love the car as a character.
And that's all told with no dialogue.
It's all with no dialogue, and I understand why the car is doing what the car is doing.
You don't understand why the car is sentient, but it doesn't really matter.
I love that the car isn't just using Arnie. Mm-hmm. The car seems to genuinely love Arnie because the car gets jealous of his girlfriend. And at the end, when he dies, the car stops trying to chase everybody else, and it just takes a moment to mourn him by playing that song, I'll always love you. I think that is great. I think the car works as a character.
I have to assume that ending is different than it is in the original Stephen King story, because I'm sure the Stephen King story gets stupid.
I think in the Stephen King story, the car is just possessed by the ghost of the previous owner.
Oh, okay.
I think, I've never read the book.
So, like, let's take a Stephen King book and strip away all the stupid. And just keep it really simple.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a little something about love, Dennis. It has a voracious appetite. It eats everything. Friendship, family. But I'll tell you something else. You feed it right, and it can be a beautiful thing, and that's what we have.
It's just a really, like, well-constructed, it's one of the better Stephen King adaptations, which might not be saying much, but...
Well, you don't know what the original was like. It might be a terrible adaptation.
But as a movie that was based on a Stephen King book, regardless of what the source material is, it's good.
Because Stephen King hates The Shining.
He showed him how to do it when he wrote the TV miniseries version of The Shining. That's so much better than the Stanley Kubrick film.
It's not the future we wanted, but the future that happened. Once a great city, now a high-security prison. designed to keep society's criminals in.
Bum, ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum, dum, dum, da-da-dum, dum, 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 dum. You know it. Number 3, Escape from motherfucking New York. Actually, let me say it proper. Escape from New York. Motherfucking. No, but it's a great fucking movie. One of the best action movies ever done, period. Got a great cast. Kurt Russell as Snake Plissken is like meant to be. It was meant to be. Literally, his character became the inspiration for Solid Snake in the Metal Gear Solid series. Very cool atmosphere, like claustrophobic and also wide open, if you will, in the same regards. Kind of gives you like a Fallout feel, like it's like Fallout, but no power armor, and you're just fucking Kurt Russell with a gun trying to fucking find the president whose little egg capsule crashes. And got the Duke in New York, number 1. Oh my God. I love how by the end of the movie, the president's pretty much just almost just a madman. He's just one of the same of the people who are in New York, the prison colony of New York. And he's like blasting, and he ends up, shooting Isaac Hayes. He ends up shooting Chef from South Park. It's comes full circle. What else? The soundtrack also probably another top 5 soundtrack from John Carpenter. It's so damn good. I love that intro theme, as I was doing in the very beginning. I fucking love this soundtrack altogether. It's like a lot of like do 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 do. It's like almost like sci-fi tension built. I like all the characters in it, like Cabby. Cabby's great. I like Adrienne Barbeau's character. It's really kind of encapsulates this feel of just wanton disregard for the area due to it being a prison colony. So yeah, I recommend you definitely watch it. It's so good. The miniatures used for the city, the flying in scenes and stuff are great. And they knew their limitations, so where they couldn't use certain things, they just showed visually, like when the actual like plane, I believe, hits, it just shows like a doop 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 doop, and it shows like an arch where the egg thing crashed and landed. So it is it's awesome. It's great. We'll have to see what the boys have to say about it too, but I know they both appreciate it just as much as me. And due to time restraints, they're going to have a lot more to say about it than I will be able to. But I will see you over in the top 2.
This is where we're getting my gold nuggets. I have Escape from New York as 6.
Okay.
I feel bad not putting it higher, but there are too many flaws.
Mike and I think that was like one of the very first reviews.
I think it's the second review.
Yeah, Mike and I talked about it. We obviously were coming at it from very different perspectives. But I love Escape from New York as well. I love the tone of it. I love the post-apocalyptic worlds. I love Kurt Russell, the score. The biggest failing of it is that it's an action movie with really lame action.
And that's why I have it at 6.
That's fair enough.
And it's the biggest reason I have it number 6. I absolutely love the fucking feel. This feels like every low-budget science fiction movie should feel.
Yeah.
Tone-wise, it's nice and gritty. It's dark without being like post-apocalyptic. It's just grungy.
Yeah. Well, they filmed it in, I think it was St. Louis. It was some city that had like recently had a massive fire that like ruined blocks. And so they just went there and filmed it. So a lot of it is this like instant production value. Just go to a place that's actually run down. So it has that, but like I said, like that's the one thing about Escape from LA is it really takes advantage of LA as a location, which this doesn't do.
Yeah.
He lands on the Twin Towers, I guess. Remember those?
Vaguely creepy. In hindsight, watching it now, watching a plane head towards the Twin Towers is like, oh God.
Yeah. But that's about it for the New York stuff, really.
You got a cabbie New York. It's got cabbies. It's a cabbie. And
I mean, it's fine because the world that it builds and that atmosphere is so great.
There's a little bit.
Although, as Mike and I mentioned, it doesn't make a lot of sense that one of the biggest pieces of real estate in the country would get walled off and turned into a prison. And that is something that Escape from LA does too. They say there was a giant earthquake and LA detached from the mainland. So that kind of makes sense, like, oh, okay, it's worthless land now. We can turn that into a prison.
Tone-wise, you have like serious on one end and like Looney Tunes on the other. Escape from New York, it's secure. It's not serious, but it's not cartoony either.
Yeah. He's not surfing in it.
It's comic booky. New York is so awful they walled it off. That's silly.
Oh yeah. Once you get past that as a premise, that like everything else is great. I love the miniatures. There's some great miniature city sets in it.
Oh God, that when the plane is heading towards New York, that is the most impressive miniature I've noticed in ages. That shot of the camera heading towards New York City, and then you realize, 15 years later, Escape from LA.
A movie with a much, much higher budget.
A movie with a much higher budget, and we got the submarine shark.
It looks like Space Jam or something. These cartoon shit flying at you.
I mean, there was a review on this. I guess there's not much point in dwelling on Escape from New York too much.
Other than pointing out that you and I have a very similar opinion of it.
Yeah.
Unlike Mike, who doesn't like the score.
The score's great.
The music is great. Again, talking about John Carpenter always wanted to make Westerns. The relationship between Kurt Russell and Lee Van Cleef's character. Lee Van Cleef was in all sorts of Westerns, so that works really well. The John Carpenter's kind of anti-authoritarian mindset is on full force here.
Well, that's another, I think, just talking about John Carpenter in general, because we are doing the John Carpenter list. Mm-hmm. There's a cynicism that runs through his movies.
Yes.
And this has it in spades.
And I will say, we didn't mention this. We should have mentioned this when we talked about Escape from LA. I do love the ending of it.
You push that button. Everything we've accomplished for the past 500 years will be finished. Our technology, our way of life. We'll have to start all over again.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
Which I think Rian Johnson might have liked it too.
He's not even here. He's a hologram.
Because The Last Jedi, everything with Luke Skywalker, it turns out he's a projection. It's the same ending.
See you around, kid.
But the idea of Snake Plissken caring so little about humanity that he's willing to just shut the entire world down is pretty awesome. And it's worthy of a much better movie than Escape from LA.
It was an ending fit for Snake Plissken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad they didn't make another one.
He's so badass. He sent the entire world into the new Dark Ages. And the worldview is so cynical that that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. We're a bunch of savages. We belong going back to our fucking roots. It's more honest. That's what makes Snake Plissken a heroic character in these movies. Mm-hmm. He's honest about just being a horrible human being.
Yeah, he just does not care.
Yeah. I mean that's what happened to the city, right? I mean, it just descended into madness, and they just walled it off.
Yeah.
It was once civilized, but no, right under that veneer of civilization, it's a wild animal.
And not worth saving.
Donald Pleasance, the fucking, the president of the United States, the symbol of civilization, yelling and unloading a machine gun.
What he's reduced to by the end of the movie.
What he's reduced to by the end of the movie. It's a fucking theme running through this, and I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
I don't give a fuck about your war or your president.
I agree that's got a little less action than most action movies, but I like you said, the mood, the tone, the pacing, and everything. I think that's what kind of puts it just way up there. Like, not all action movies have to be like action. It's like about world building, and I think they understand that. So we're gonna get to the top two now and enjoy.
It's a pretty amazing planet we live on here, and a man would have to be some kind of fool to think we're all alone in this universe.
There is a hidden world where ancient evil weaves a modern mystery.
Alrighty, here we are in number 2. I love this movie, of course. I mean, we're so far up on the list now. I love all of them now. But Big Trouble in Little China is by far one of the most greatest, like, action, comedy, sci-fi mysticism movies ever. It is great. We've got like Kurt Russell and his sidekick, what's his name, Wang, and we got Egg Shen, Lo Pan. They got all these interesting characters that are just like, it's like you, Jack Burton or Kurt Russell's character is like a fish out of water as like a truck driver in like basically like Chinatown with all this lore going on. And he's just kind of like, I have no clue what's going on here, the entire thing, and it's great. And it's like everyone, it's all are marketed as him being the main character when really he's like the sidekick to Wang, which is just like perfect. But it's so good, so well acted. The special effects are amazing, and it's just such a unique movie. It's hard to explain. There's so much random things that happen throughout it, but it's such a good film. Soundtrack is amazing. It's it's a 1986 film, if I didn't mention the year already. It's so it's one of Carpenter's 80s films. It's really good work though. It's top caliber, only beat out just slightly by number 1 on the list, but this movie is wonderful. I actually owned the DVD for it before it was re-released, I think, again recently, but definitely recommend it, and we will move on to their interpretation of it as well.
One was The Thing, which means that you're number one?
By process of elimination, my number 1 is Big Trouble in Little China.
Like I told my last wife, I says, honey, I never drive faster than I can see. Besides that, it's all in the reflexes.
Which I can't argue. It's not my number 1, but I can't argue against it being your number 1.
I'm not a horror guy. I like adventure. I like comedy.
It does fall into that mold of that era of movies, the kind of Indiana Jones mold of like going through caves and discovering new, creatures or new magic or whatever. It feels very 80s in a way that isn't a bad thing. It doesn't feel dated.
It's a movie good enough, I don't understand why it bombed. And it bombed heavily.
I think it might have bombed just because it was so kind of weird. People didn't know what it was. Like Indiana Jones is easy to explain, like an adventurer guy. Throwback to, old serials. Big Trouble in Little China just has all sorts of weird shit in it, and it keeps introducing new weird shit as it goes along.
Well, it's a descent.
Yeah.
It's a descent. We start off San Francisco, normal reality. Like San Francisco, Chinatown, we're completely familiar with this. And then we kind of go a level down into weirdness. And after the girl gets kidnapped, we run into like a kung fu street fight in a back alley, which is very odd.
Yeah.
But nothing too supernatural yet until 3 men descend from the sky with lightning powers. So now we're going down another level into mysticism.
Yeah.
And then we're in a business, but it has like weird underground layers. Mm-hmm. And basically, the movie just keeps getting weirder, but it gets progressively weirder.
Yeah.
Until you get to a stage where, at the end of the movie, it's almost like a complete fantasy world where there's like caves and rivers of slime under San Francisco where worm monsters come out of walls, and there's a...
Well, even basic physics go out the window during that end fight scene where people are... Now they're just flying. They're just flying through the air.
And in like neon arcade China.
Yeah, I love that set, the end set of the movie with the giant skull with the neon around it. Like, that's great.
Follow the leader. 1, 2, 3. We may be trapped.
Famously, what people always bring up now is the fact that, Kurt Russell, he's front and center on the poster. He's the star attraction of the movie. He has no clue what's going on at any point in this movie, and he's actually the sidekick, and he doesn't know it.
That's what makes it work.
Yeah.
That's like the central gimmick of the movie.
Mm-hmm. That never gets old.
No.
It feels like it should after a while. Him being like bewildered and confused and asking, half the movie is him asking questions. What the fuck is happening? And it never gets old.
This movie is John Carpenter taking the piss out of John Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
the standard like American hero shows up. He just like expecting that he's the protagonist.
Yeah.
But he's in this culture that he has no place being in.
Has no understanding
and he has
of.
No idea what's going on, and he never will have any idea what's going on.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Huh? China is here? I don't even know what the hell that means. All I know is this Lopan character comes out of thin air in the middle of a goddamn alley while his buddies are flying around on wires cutting everybody to shreds, and he just stands there waiting for me to drive my truck straight through him with light coming out of his mouth.
So the sidekick of the movie is the one who's constantly taking charge and kicking ass. I love that through most of the climax of the movie, Kurt Russell is passed out because he shot a hole in the ceiling and dropped rocks on his head.
And then he gets trapped under a guy.
Yeah, and then he finally wakes up, and then he's just trapped under a dude for the rest of the fight. The scene before that, he has lipstick.
That's the scene after that. That's
after that. Yeah.
That's the one scene where he gets to do something heroic, but it's entirely on accident.
Yes.
And he has the indignity of having lipstick smeared on his face during the entire scene. I kind of love Kim Cattrall in this.
The dialogue in this movie is so fast. It's like a 40s movie. It's very like snappy and fast, and she understands it, I think, better than anyone else. Like when she first walks in and she's like, "It's me, Gracie Law." It's so campy. Like she knows exactly what the tone is supposed to be.
That's because she takes a character that's just kind of nonsense, and she just fucking owns it.
Yeah.
It's like basically her character just shows up in the movie and says, "Yeah, I'm here now." like literally, she just walks in the movie. She walks into somebody's house and introduces herself, and she's just there.
Yep.
What are you doing here?
Don't panic. It's only me, Gracie Law.
Oh, great.
And there's so much exposition that the way they get through it is just to plow through it as fast as possible. So you have multiple scenes where characters are just very quickly explaining what's happening.
You mean the David Lopan that's chairman of the National Orient Bank and owns the Wing Kong Import-Export Trading Company, but who's so reclusive that no one's even laid eyes on this guy in years?
Who the hell are you, anyway?
Well, and it's a movie that just keeps moving. Like, it's one of the most relentlessly paced movies where it starts and it just keeps going from one scene to the next. It's like it's racing to get to the next weird thing.
It's excited to see what's next.
Yeah.
One thing I want to say, I love the way the movie handles mysticism. Like, normally you see like fantastic elements in a universe, it's like hidden. Like Harry Potter, nobody tells the normies. We got the secret world.
Oh, sure.
And in Big Trouble in Little China, like the mysticism, it's all right out in the front. It's just in a section of town that the Western world just pays no attention to.
Yeah.
It's all this mystical crap, and it's literally going on right under America's nose. They're not hiding it. Egg Shen in the beginning, when the guy's interviewing, it was just the lightning. It's like,
oh yeah. I guess that opening scene where he does the lightning in his hands was like a reshoot because they wanted to make sure that the audience understood. This is like one of those weird studio notes where it's like, we got to make sure that the audience knows that Jack Burton is the hero. So that's why they keep saying Jack Burton in that scene to like hammer into your head that he's supposed to be the protagonist because the studio didn't know what they had apparently. I also love just some of the like cartoony logic of like when they first infiltrate the top layer of the building, they go in under the guise that they're telephone repairmen. So Kurt Russell's idea is to just hold a phone up to everybody, like, look, I'm legit. It's like Looney Tunes logic.
It works.
It works because his character is a buffoon.
It's a great comedy that is also a good mystical martial arts fantasy movie.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that the action is good in the movie. I mean, that whole end fight scene is, aside from Kurt Russell knocking himself out, like, it's awesome. Again,
the wire
compare
work,
the way the wire work stuff, compare the action in this to the action scenes in Ghosts of Mars. It's worlds apart.
It's shocking.
It's
shocking. Is it John Carpenter's only good action movie?
Where the action is good.
Where the action is good.
Probably. Because like I love Escape from New York, obviously, but as we've said, the action is the weakest part. The end of the movie, they just have to drive across a bridge. That's the exciting action climax of the film.
They needed a map that doesn't even end up being that useful. It's weird.
Yeah, Harry Dean Stanton's like, I'm the only one who knows how to get across that bridge. And then he just gets blowed up.
I think audiences were confused that the protagonist was the comic relief.
Well, it's something that everybody brings up now, is that's like the interesting thing about the movie, is that the supposed hero is actually the sidekick. And I'd be curious to know if people even picked up on that back then. Now it's like one of the appeals of the movie, but I don't know if people, because you see the poster, I think it's a Drew Struzan poster, and it's all about Kurt Russell. He was a big star at the time. And I think that's probably why it bombed, is because people just didn't understand it.
I actually saw this. I was one of the 5 people that saw this in a theater.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah, and I was a kid. I was like 10. I did like the movie, but that aspect did confuse me.
Sure.
It's like, why was Kurt Russell such a buffoon? I didn't quite get it yet. I liked the movie, but I loved it a lot more when I got older and I watched it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those movies. I think we watched it here at the studio once. And while you're watching it, it is the best movie ever made. Like, when you think about it afterwards, not really, but while you're watching it, it is one of the most entertaining movies you will ever see.
I think that's fair.
From start to finish, it moves so fast, but this is like, it's constantly introducing new ideas, going to new locations. Oh, look, now there's a giant Chewbacca monster. Like, it's constantly bringing up new shit.
Especially for a John Carpenter movie.
Yeah, it's very different because all of his movies are slowly paced, even his action movies.
Even though this is my favorite John Carpenter movie, it's so odd compared to the rest of the stuff he's done. And yeah,
I never really thought of. I mean, I've always thought about this movie as being really fast-paced, but I've never really thought about it in comparison to his other movies, because that's kind of his thing. It's very slow. It's too slow for some people. So yeah, unique movie for the period, and unique for John Carpenter.
You can feel the wind is rising, baby. Now the truth is here.
So, who would have thought Rich would have had that as number 1? It's my number 2. Love it. Like I said, god damn it, for a lot of the same reasons they said. It's just it's not only a unique time period movie, but it's also, or a unique movie for that time period, but it's also unique for John Carpenter. So it's just like, it's a coupling made in heaven. A lot of the setting design, the set design is fucking amazing too. On top of everything, the acting is great. Everything's fantastic. It's hard to even naysay it, and some of the effects are cheesy, but it's like they're cheesy on purpose, kind of. So it still ages well. It's something you could watch to this day. But I stopped ranting and raving about this movie, but the soundtrack is fucking amazing. The Big Trouble in Little China song from John Carpenter, he makes himself, like with his band or whatever. Fantastic as well. I did not mention, though, Gracie Law, played by the girl from Sex and the City. She is very good in this movie. Honestly, she's one of the highlights. I mean, there's a lot of highlights, too, and she's one of them. She does very good. But yeah, I mean, it's a great film. Like I said, everything about it's just so fucking good. So we're going to move on to number 1 now before I delve into it even further.
Some say the world will end by fire. Others say it will end by ice. Now, somewhere in the Antarctic, the question is being settled forever.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our journey at the number 1. Not only my favorite John Carpenter movie, probably one of my favorite horror movies, probably one of my favorite movies of all time. We have The Thing, a 1982 remake of a old movie that no one remembers. So when people say the remake, technically that one, or this one is the remake, but there's also a remake of this one, so it's like a remake-ception going on. But either way, this is one of the best horror movies of all time. I won't say the best, but it's definitely one of the best. It probably fucking well is the best, but the setting's amazing. The Antarctic setting, the claustrophobia of being stuck indoors in the immense cold, and also not the paranoia of not knowing who you can trust. Sitting in a room with 10 people, like 3 of those people can't be trusted, oh man, it's like the paranoia of that. John Carpenter does a good job of getting some good actors in their roles, like Keith David and Kurt Russell. Again, Kurt Russell's in most of John Carpenter's best works. Keith David is too, and they live. It's just such a competent film altogether. The atmosphere, the mood is just just anxiety, but just like it's just like defeat. They feel defeated the whole way, not knowing what they're up against, not knowing how to defeat it. And then Kurt Russell's character figures out the blood test theory, and it makes, the alien become, appear, basically, because it's going to be scared. It's going to be, because he's right, like every piece of it is like its own surviving organism. It's also explored in the video game for PlayStation 2 that I fucking love too, because it's actually like pretty much picks right up where that leaves off, and it's better. That video game is way better than the newer Thing, the what you call it, end up being a prequel. But that game's awesome because you end up getting saved by Kurt Russell's character, which implies he survived. So hey, it's always kind of nice. But it's a damn good movie. One of the best movies ever, best horror movies ever, best John Carpenter movie ever. It is the quintessential thing when I think of, no pun intended, when I think of John Carpenter. And when I think of horror in general, really, and it's terrifying. The effects are great. The practical effects are some of the best you've ever fucking seen. It's amazing. The gore is amazing. It looks so organic, but yet it's just special effects. But some of the most organic, realistic looking special effects and gore and stuff you'll ever see in any film. And it's made in '82, so this really goes to show you that the CGI and shit just don't cut it. Either way, though, I hope you guys enjoyed this rundown of all of John Carpenter's films in a nice little ranking format, with Red Letter Media also having their snippets in there as well, and kind of comparing and contrasting each of ours. I did notice a Starman seemed to be one of the bigger differences. They seem to love it, but I didn't. So there's there's a lot of that going back and forth, and it's kind of nice to see a difference of opinion throughout the course of all the films. So thanks for joining me in this summary here of all those, and we'll see what they have to say about The Thing, number 1, the best movie of all time as far as John Carpenter is concerned. And after that, it'll be a bon voyage. But thanks again for joining me.
My number 2, our cards are kind of on the table then. There's only so many left. My number 2 is The Thing. There's a review on The Thing.
Yeah, Colin and I did The Thing.
I don't know what to add.
Well, actually, let me think here. So your number 2 is The Thing.
My number 2 is The Thing.
What have you not mentioned yet? Oh, of course.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Oh, of course. Did I? Oh, yeah, I had Big Trouble in Little China at number 4. Okay. So, all right, well, I'll just say my number 1 is The Thing then. Again, like I said, They Live might be number 1 in my heart, but I just think The Thing is like a perfectly constructed movie. It's John Carpenter with the appropriate budget and the appropriate skill level to pull off a story like this.
Well, so let's come at it from a slightly different angle. Does The Thing have a flaw?
The only flaw in The Thing is very minor, which I think we talked about in our review, which is that there's like a little bit of stop motion at the end that kind of takes you out of it, because all the practical effects are so awesome. They're so creative and gross and weird and alien, as they should be.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell's in there. It's weird and pissed off, whatever it is.
Where it's like, I can't even picture what this thing is supposed to look like in its original form. So all the effects are great except for the little bit of stop motion at the end.
The one thing, what I would say, I can even forgive the stop motion at the end. I do, however, have trouble knowing what The Thing is capable of. Mm-hmm. I have trouble believing that it could be destroyed by dynamite. That seems like it would just make 100,000 little tiny things all over the place.
Well, the beauty of the ending is that we don't necessarily know that it's destroyed. That's just what Kurt Russell resorted to doing. So you end up with him and Keith David at the end. One of them could be The Thing, we don't know.
Which should be left deliberately ambiguous.
Yes, which it is.
Did you talk about that with Colin?
Colin and I talked about how there's people with like theories, and it's like, oh, you don't see his breath, so that means he's The Thing, and it's like, no.
The theme is paranoia. The whole point is you don't know.
Yeah, not knowing is the whole point of that ending. So it's perfect ending to a perfect movie. I love the setting of it, that like cold, in the middle of nowhere. It's like a space. It's like an alien, You're trapped somewhere that if there is some sort of weird threat, there's nowhere to go.
Hey, Blair.
I don't want to stay out here anymore. I want to come back inside.
It's one of the worst fucking environments you could think of.
Yes, exactly. And the fact that it just drops you into the story with these Norwegians shooting at a dog, you don't know what's happening. Like it's great.
I guess I have two things to add because you've watched the review. The review's great. I don't know if you mentioned this. There's a bit of foreshadowing I actually kind of like with the chess wizard. This movie opens up. Kurt Russell is playing chess wizard. Mm-hmm. And
voiced by Adrian Barbeau.
Yeah, I think so. And he thinks he's about to win the game. He thinks, the computer's lost it. I'm about to win. He's making his moves. And then unexpectedly, the computer checkmates him. What's his response to this? Cheating bitch. So in the movie, you have the Thing on one end and Kurt Russell playing a little bit of a chess game with each other.
That's true, yeah.
Kurt Russell thinks he's got it all figured out. He's got the blood test. I've figured out what's going on. I've got you. And then, oh, whoops. Alien has foiled me. Fuck it, I'm gonna blow everything up. That chess scene foreshadows the end of the movie perfectly. Because his reaction when he's been bested is just to blow everything up.
He literally says, fuck it.
Yeah, fuck you too!
Oh no, he says, fuck you too. I think, Roddy Piper says fuck it at the end of They Live.
Fuck it.
So, similar ending,
Yeah.
like, I know I'm screwed, fuck it. I'm gonna go out in a blaze of glory and do as much damage as I can.
I thought that was neat. Other thing I want to bring up, is it possible that the Thing just wants to get away from this crazy fucking planet where everything wants to kill it?
It's entirely possible. And that's what's great, we don't know its motivation.
Because it's building a spaceship at the end. It's entirely possible that the Thing just wants to go home.
And people keep shooting flamethrowers and shit at
People
it.
keep throwing flamethrowers at it, and oh my God.
Yeah.
Just leave me alone. And the final thing I want to bring up. There's a short story. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I want to recommend it. I want to bring this up just because I want to recommend it to everybody. You can find it online.
Is it the story the movie was based on?
No. I've heard that though. It's kind of shockingly close to the original story.
Okay.
But somebody wrote basically fan fiction called The Things. And I want to recommend this. It's The Thing, the movie Thing.
Yeah.
Written from the Thing's point of view.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like Grendel.
Yeah. This alien creature who just does not understand these weird, creepy humans around it. Because the Thing is a bunch of individual cells that are like a hive mind.
Yeah.
And it doesn't understand at all what the fuck a brain is. It's like, what is this tumorous lump they have on top of their bodies? It's a great short story. And
Okay.
You already did a great review on this. I don't have much more to add. Check that out. It's fun.
All right. Also, R.I.P. Wilford Brimley.
Finally.
Finally.
Fucking finally.